we consider all our options. The people that shoot at you usually wind up shooting at me.
On your left.
You just ran like 13 miles in 30 minutes.
On your left. Guess I got a late start.
Really? You should be ashamed of yourself.
What unit you with?
58th Pararescue. But now I'm working down at the VA. Sam Wilson.
Steve Rogers.
I kind of put that together.
It's good to meet you, Sam.
We all got the same problems. Guilt. Regret.
You lose someone?
My wingman. Sorry.
Everyone we know is trying to kill us.
Not everyone.
I thought you said you were a pilot.
I never said pilot. Captain America needs my help. There's no better reason to get back in.
Shield, Hydra, it all goes.
Mackie? Whoever he used to be, the guy he is now, I don't think he's the kind you save. He's the kind you stop.
Gear up.
No, you're a lot heavier than you look.
I had a big breakfast.
Avenging is your world. Your world is crazy.
Sam! Sam, where you at?
Hey, Cap, you read me? Captain Sam, can you hear me? On your left.
How does it feel?
Like it's someone else's.
It isn't.
It means a lot for my sons to be able to see Captain America as a black dude.
For sure.
That means a lot to me.
Yeah.
And for me to be that dude to my sons. You know, so that thank you, that moment was not just about, hey, we're acting. It was more of a thing. And then they cut, and I cried, and Chris cried, and the Russos cried, and everybody cried. It was an emotional day.
I know you're out there. I can feel you now. I know that you're afraid.
People are tired of the old ways. People are turning their neurological chemical reactions from a perceived threat into fuel. It's taken roughly about 25 years, but the prophecy that the Matrix ended with is here. It's real, and people know about your Matrix. Being woke is a follow-through of what the Matrix metaphor was trying to explain. People finally get it and can see the code, or better yet, the programming, just like Neo. The representation of black characters in film and television has long been a battleground for inclusion and cultural recognition. the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or better yet, the MCU, has taken steps to bring forward diverse stories and characters intentionally, yet resistance remains, both within the industry and among vocal audiences. And actually, there's been escalations in that now there are hate campaigns to keep these kinds of films from making profits. One particular instance of this resistance was the backlash to the idea of a black Captain America, a storyline that ultimately materialized in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier show, and before that, the last scene in Avengers Endgame, one of the last scenes in Avengers Endgame, with Sam Wilson taking up the mantle. While this series succeeded in reframing the legacy of Captain America and exposing some history of society in general, America, and also things that are depicted in the comics that were not quite depicted in the movies or TV shows, namely Isaiah Bradley and his legacy and his history. While this series succeeded in reframing the legacy of Captain America and addressing racial issues, some viewers were vocal about rejecting the notion of a black man carrying the iconic shield. And that was on two different levels, within the show and within the real world as well, making meta statements about society in general, exposing deep-seated racial discomfort within the certain parts of the fandom, if you can call it that.
The OG retconned Captain America that they tested the serum on first. So
right, and that was the one who was introduced to us in Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Should have called him Captain Tuskegee.
The Tuskegee syphilis study, an experiment in which mostly white doctors permitted and then carefully maintained illness in their black patients, could not have taken place without certain fundamental assumptions about the different rights of racial groups in America.
Today, let's talk about the interesting, albeit short history of this amazing character. Isaiah Bradley and his wife Faith lived a pretty nice life. I mean, they had to deal with the standard racism and discrimination that was rampant at the time, but despite having a baby on the way, the two had to be separated when the United States joined World War II. With segregation being standard practice, Bradley was placed inside of an all-black battalion, which was always seen as lesser in the eyes of the military, getting less favorable equipment and lodging. But that was pretty minor stuff compared to what would happen next. A higher up in the military came to camp with an order to shut it down, kill everyone in charge, and wipe the battalion off the records. The soldiers were rounded up, shipped off to laboratories, and declared as dead. These men were used as test subjects to create the perfect super soldier. What, you thought that they lucked out and made a fully formed Captain America on the first try? No. There was a lot of experimentation done, with countless men perishing in really gruesome ways, and the few that did survive couldn't last long, and they died shortly thereafter. At the rate of failure, more involuntary participants were needed, and of course the lab rats had to be expendable black cannon fodder. The mere idea of using white men was considered ludicrous. In the end, Isaiah and 4 other soldiers made it through the treatment in perfect form, and at long last, the United States had cracked the secret to creating super soldiers.
I need to understand.
You understand. Every black man does. Whether you want to deny it or not.
Don't do that bitter old man thing with me.
If you ain't bitter, you're blind.
I don't get it, okay? What went wrong? But you were a super soldier like Steve. You could have been the next.
The next? What? Huh? Blonde hair, blue eyes, stars and stripes. The entire world's been chasing that great white hope since he first got dope. A handful of us got shot up with different versions of that serum. But they don't tell us what it is. They tell us it's tetanus. They sent us on missions, even though the others weren't stable. Some of us started dying off. Then a couple of the boys get captured on a mission. I heard the brass talking about blowing the POW camp to hell to hide the evidence. But those are my men, my brothers, not evidence. So I bust out of the facility one night, and I brought them boys back. Not that it made a damn bit of difference. It wasn't long before it was only me left. And what did I get for saving their lives? For the next 30 years, they experimented on me, trying to figure out why the serum worked.
But the world's different now. I know people.
Man, that's why you're here. You think things are different? You think times are different? You think I wouldn't be dead in a day if you brought me out? You want to believe jail was my fault because you got that white man's shield? Pledge allegiance to that, my brother. They will never let a black man be Captain America. And even if they did, no self-respecting black man would ever want to be.
Beyond the specific example of Captain America, the MCU's commitment to diversity has sparked both support and opposition. Writers and creators are often pressured to align their work with expectations from vocal minorities in the fandom, or risk their contributions being discredited or downplayed, or even their reputation being lashed or damaged. For instance, when new creators bring diverse perspectives into established franchises, they may face threats online, hate campaigns designed to discredit their work. Notably, Captain Marvel and The Last Jedi both face aggressive online review bombing due to their female-led narratives, and the directors of those films have not been looked at in a positive light by popular culture because of those hate campaigns, in my opinion. This is indicative of an industry where internal and external forces resist progressive changes, even as these changes find success both critically and commercially. Hence, Captain Marvel and Black Panther, with their sequels both not doing as well, but also there was no Avengers film attached to those sequels either. So it could just be that Phase 4 is essentially Phase 1 of the multiverse saga. And essentially, there should not be an expectation that those Phase 4 films should make $1 billion, because you're essentially starting at Iron Man 1. You're starting at Captain America 1. You're starting at Thor 1, but for new characters. But no one wants to talk about that except me. It's all a game to them, in my opinion, and they are playing they're playing whack-a-mole with people's lives, livelihoods, professional careers, all in the name of keeping the film industry and comic movies the way that they like to see them. Bland, with white males giving each other handies, with a diverse person in the corner watching and or patting them on the back, if at all, in the film.
There's nothing wrong with Falcon, being original Falcon, being black and an original character. There was absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I understand the friendship. We've seen this even play out in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but there's nothing wrong with them being friends and so forth. Instead of trying to make this character, after all of these years, after decades, characters are one of the OGs, right? And then you make them recently, in the recent years, when they had their little run, in which he became Captain America. And it was terrible. Terrible. It was a terrible idea. But what I said was going to happen.
5 minutes later.
Personally, oh my God, all the diversity, play it out. Like, dude, I don't want I don't want black versions of classically white characters. I don't care about that. Give me the original characters, right? Falcon was fine as Falcon, yo. He was fine as Falcon. Now, we got to limit him to this sloppy seconds, right? Former Captain America. So I hate that we have to refer to him that way. And that's what they're going to do, because it's something that'll stick. It's something that's promotional, because they treat Captain America, they treat the Shield, they treat this classically white character as like this beacon of OG Marvel comics. And I understand that, because he is. But what you've done is you've now essentially crapped on the legacy, because now that's what he is. He's former Captain America.
Is Eric right? Maybe he isn't living in reality. These are the situations that we have. Is Misty Knight fine with her own lore? Yes. Did it enhance her as a character to be Captain America? Probably not. But live action is a different medium and is digested differently. Namely, you only have 2 hours roughly to tell a story. You have to do something that is not one for one with the comics. Otherwise, a-holes will spoil cultural content out of spite. And finally, being a token is not good. Basically what Eric was saying. But it's better than not existing in the space at all and existing outside of popular culture altogether. So like, you create a Falcon movie and then a third of the Marvel fan base goes to see it. But you create something based on the comics, Captain America as Falcon, and FYI, they have addressed that at least one other Captain America was around when the Red Guardian fought him. We thought that was a throwaway line, but I'm pretty sure this guy is who he's talking about. Moving forward, I believe it's essential to continue highlighting how creative diversity fuels innovation and better storytelling. With platforms like Netflix, Amazon Prime, and other streaming services opening the doors for more inclusive projects, there are greater opportunities for creators of color. But for meaningful progress, there needs to be a concerted effort within a new industry genre and among audiences to embrace new narratives, not resist them. I would propose that an Afrocentric category or state or status be established, and there would be levels within that status. Namely, if there's one black character that is a main character, that film or movie could be labeled as Afrocentric +1. But if the character is a supporting character and they have a limited amount of lines, it could be labeled Afrocentric -1. That way, we know when we can go to a film or or watch a television show in support of those characters, because we know that they're there. Historically, Hollywood has had a formula for diverse shows and films that involve limited opportunities for creators and performers of color. Studios often cancel projects after a single season or when they fail to appeal to mainstream or white audiences, despite Despite groundbreaking work such as Black Panther, a film that shattered box office records and cultural expectations for a predominantly black superhero cast, there remains a systemic tendency to curtail the progress these projects make once they've served their purpose of drawing in niche audiences. This fleeting nature of progress highlights the challenges black creators face in ensuring their stories and characters are seen as integral parts of the industry, not just temporary pander projects.
It's 12:37 in the AM, and you're listening to Rod Simmons on Talk Radio. Our show tonight, The Flying Man of DC. Does he really exist? Is he real or fiction? We want to hear from you. We want to hear your calls. Call in now. You know our number.
Hey, Rod, man, I just want to say that, you know, with all the black-on-black crime in D.C., it's kind of nice to know a brother's out there trying to do something. Thanks.
I just want to say I don't know if he's real or not, but I've got 2 kids, and I just pray that he is.
I think this is a ridiculous scam being perpetrated on the inner city by ambitious politicians stepping on the backs of my people for their own corrupt political agendas. Peace.
You're listening to Rod Simmons. A yes caller.
All I know is that somehow someone they call the Flying Man closed down a crack house, and it brought my son home.
His name's Meteor.
It's Meteor Man, that's what I'm calling it? Ladies and gentlemen, this is a miracle. An outdoor grocery store, a garden in the middle of the ghetto. It'll feed thousands and thousands. Who is behind this? A few nights ago, we reported that the caped man was Clarence James Carter III. But the Bloods and the Crips say that it isn't Mr. Carter. Our caped hero wants...
This is a call to action, because how often do you get a major movie studio to willingly create a space for black leadership? I would say there was Meteor Man and the Mantis, but not much else to speak of outside of the CW shows with Black Lightning.
I know there are millions of people out there who are going to hate me for it. Even now, here.
I feel it. The stares, the judgment. And there's nothing I can do to change it. Yet I'm still here. No super serum, no blonde hair or blue eyes.
The only power I have is that I believe we can do better. Can I take a picture? You don't know what that person's going to use that picture for. There's been several experiences now where people have taken a picture with me and used them for ways that I don't deem the right way. I have people tell me all the time, well, this is what you signed up for. I'm like, that's crazy. That's like telling a girl that because she got put on a cute dress and went to a bar, she signed up for me to harass her all night. No. We're looked at as tools, as vessels, as opposed to artists. So because of that, I choose not to be a part of your social reality.
Do you think Hollywood, they only got so much room for leading black male roles, and Denzel held it down for a long time. Still holding it down. How can you get to that level without knocking out a Denzel or or Will Smith, or is it enough room for everybody to live, or do you pretty much got to take down the top?
Well, Will Smith and Denzel, they're my seniors, those are cats I look up to. So we're not even offered the same parts, and even if I was a megastar, we wouldn't be offered the same parts because, they're seniors in the game.
You'd be Denzel's son.
I'd be his son or his nephew. I'd be Will Smith's cousin or, his nephew. So it's a completely different ball game. For me, it's just continuously doing good work. I don't want people to come to the theater and see a movie and be like, yo, he showed his ass. I try to do something where people can come in, because movies, damn, $12, $13 now. You take a little chick to the movie, you get popcorn, she gonna want nachos and shit, extra cheese
with the jalapenos on the side.
You know what I mean? You $45 in, you ain't even get no ass.
You need to get a good movie.
And you still might have to do dinner before or after.
Nah, I ain't gonna feed you.
Damn!
It's different when you get into it and you're like, I want to be famous, because you'll never. It's hard to attain an unattainable dream. Celebrity is not a human emotion. Like, I didn't get into the business saying I wanted to be famous. I got into the business saying I wanted to be happy. And acting made me happy. So even if I wasn't in any of these movies and I was doing a play in, Weldonshire or somewhere, that's a real place, I would be happy because I love acting. I don't love the idea of being a celebrity. So I pursued the craft of acting as opposed to the ridiculousness of celebrity.
Thank you.
No problem. The business has changed interestingly in the past 16 years that I've been in it, because it used to be people going to the movies used to be an experience. It used to be a family affair. It used to be an event. Whereas now, if people will go see movies just because they said it's going to be number one, and everybody know the movie's bad. You'll read a review on Rotten Tomatoes and be like, oh, they gave it, 75% tomatoes. It's fresh. I should go see it. When they haven't even seen the movie. So the evolution of the business has gone to, like, there are no movie stars anymore. Like, Anthony Mackie isn't a movie star. The Falcon is a movie star. And that's what's weird. It used to be with Tom Cruise and Will Smith and Stallone and Schwarzenegger. When you went to the movies, you went to go see the Stallone movie. You went to go see the Schwarzenegger movie. Now you go see X-Men. So the evolution of the superhero has meant the death of the movie star. And that's the fear now, because you're now making movies for 16-year-olds and China. And that's it. You think of some of your favorite movies growing up, those movies wouldn't get made today.
Goonies?
Wouldn't get made today.
Halloween?
Wouldn't get made today.
Thing?
Wouldn't get made today.
Damn.
So, two very quick things. First, how excited were you when you found out that you were going to be playing Falcon?
I was very excited. I cried like a baby. I truly did. I literally sat in my closet and cried for about an hour. You know how you cry so hard you need to take a nap? Like, literally, I cried so hard I drank a glass of water and took a nap. It was great. I was really excited. And I was even more so excited because, in your career, you want to be acknowledged. You want to have someone say, hey, you've been doing a good job and here's your reward. And I felt up to that point I hadn't got that acknowledgement. I felt like I've been doing good work. I had 40 some odd movies on my resume, and, you know, 2 of them had won Best Picture, and, you know, people have been nominated and all this stuff, and everybody's like, oh, I love all your movies. And it was like for naught, you know? Whereas if you're another actor, you can do 1 season of CSI LA, and next thing you know, you're Wolverine. You know? I mean, Hugh Jackman didn't do CSI LA. I'm just, you know, because I love Wolverine. But the reality of it was, I felt like that was my moment of acknowledgement. Everything in my career I had been working on had finally paid off with this opportunity to be the Falcon, because I knew it was such a major role, and it was going to be such a major role in this already exploding universe. So it was very emotional, and then very fun.
Just ran like 13 miles in 30 minutes.
Guess I got a late start.
Really? You should be ashamed of yourself. Should take another lap.
So now we back to the point of what is white is right?
He was running his mouth. You didn't hear him. Running.
All right, man, I see what you're trying to do. I'm not gonna cause any trouble, okay? But I'm not gonna lie down for you either.
Your Honor, our particular decisions, Angel. Think about what this will mean in your next life.
The conversation part of this arrest is on.
Every time we go out, it's life or death. You roll the dice.
It gets like that.
My shoulders fine.
Be a lot hotter than that, Nate.
My shoulders fine.
It's really important to me that Cap never finds out about this.
Now, I'm not saying Anthony Mackie is the best actor in the world, because Denzel, he even says he would gladly play Denzel's son in one of the clips here. But he does have some classics in my book. Namely, one of them is in the next breakdown that I plan to do on Black economics, covering a film by the name of The Banker. I hope I can make it, but I may be delayed or not able to do that video at all. On top of the health crisis with the kittens and all that. Anyway, enough about my personal problems. Most of us first met Anthony Mackie through his role in 8 Mile as Clarence, but for me, it was his performance in She Hate Me as John Henry Armstrong.
What the hell are you doing here?
I want you to be the father of my child. Alex and I, we're feeling maternal.
Try a sperm bank.
Please, that is like shopping for Gucci at Walmart.
You're lesbians, right?
We're business women. We'll pay you.
I can't do this.
You just got canned. And your current net worth is somewhere between 0 and the gross national debt. I know how to increase your cash flow.
Have you lost your damn mind?
Willing to pay $10,000 each.
That stood out. Although I had a bias due to the subject matter, I loved the film, but I didn't even know his name back then. He was just that guy from She Hate Me. Fast forward a few years, and once I saw him in the MCU, everything clicked. Even seeing him in 8 Mile, I was like, oh, wow, that is the same guy. You know that feeling. I personally think that him leading the Avengers isn't even a question. Mackie has the chops to do it, and Marvel chose him initially because he had the potential to continue the legacy. They have long-term plans, but they don't want everything spoiled. That said, I think they got hacked recently, so we might get spoiled anyway. People talk about the films immediately after leaving the theater to ruin the film as well. There are hate campaigns that surround Marvel movies because of these facts. Anthony Mackie represents progress for society. Brave New World represents a change in how we are seen on screen. Wakanda was nice and all, but this is the actual representation that we need. in a place that exists like Washington, D.C., in a spy thriller, in the likeness of Winter Soldier, or even 3 Days of the Condor. I said all that to say, let's give one of our best actors a chance to stand on his own. Any negative energy around him is manufactured because the story has all the ingredients for success. Specifically, closing off plot holes from other parts of the universe, Tiamat, Hulk and the Leader, Isaiah Bradley's backstory, or at least why he went all Manchurian Candidate.
Hey, it's Black Falcon!
It's just Falcon, kid.
It's the Black Falcon there, I tell you.
Nah, that's Captain America.
What you want, Black Falcon?
You need to learn some manners.
He ain't a Falcon anymore.
Hey, Captain African Falcon, man. Maybe
Deadpool 3 or Captain Black America Falcon. I can't remember.
Captain Black America Falcon.
No,
Deadpool was supposed to come out
Deadpool was
before,
supposed to come
originally.
out first, and then Black Captain America was supposed to come out in like July or something. But they're and I still think that's the way it's set up, and they haven't officially changed anything. But the rumor is they're likely to change Black Captain New World Order America to
Falcon.
the May release date.
I want to make it apparent that there are people out there that base their entire lived experience on publicly hating and corralling other people. But after this section of the video, you will see how bad it really is. And you will see that the people that think they are causing diminished returns are actually giving the MCU and other humane, inclusive media companies free advertising. I say that because the fan base for Captain Marvel wasn't that big, especially before her first movie. That said, her second film did a little bit less than Iron Man money. And Iron Man didn't make that much. Captain America 1 definitely didn't make that much. Basically exactly where it should have been, due to the audience that was built prior to the Marvels. In the beginning, there was Tony Stark, and his first film made $500 million worldwide. And the Marvels made $200 million worldwide. And that's fair, because it was a woman-led film and wasn't centering on a Barbie-esque figurehead. If we want to talk about what these plebes are calling woke, Barbie was, by these woke activists' definition, woke. But it still made buku cash. In this case, the hate campaigns only made more people pay attention to the Marvels and wait for streaming. I mean, pretty much exactly what happened with Madam Web. Like, there was the hate campaign, it was the worst movie ever, and suddenly it's like top charts on Netflix. So basically, what these people are doing is market manipulation. They're kind of like putting their finger on the scale, telling people what to say and what to repeat just to affect the sales of a company. They accomplished a milestone in their goals of market manipulation, tanking the Disney stock through public discourse, but that is the whole business model of the MCU, where they can squeeze out a few billion-dollar projects to fund the future of film and television. The one that so many white supremacists are fighting against tooth and nail. Think about why Ant-Man with Paul Rudd wasn't a blockbuster. I love Paul Rudd. He's one of the greatest actors. He's, probably immortal, drinks the blood of children or something. I don't know. But, he's not like the other Marvel characters or whatever. Like, he basically is just a guy. And he's in a suit. And he has a family of, homogenous people, except for Lawrence Fishburne that, had a mild cameo in maybe one or two of those movies. Maybe just one. But basically, it was a homogenous movie, and essentially milk spoils, Like, that's really what it boils down to, is that we've been telling the Jesus Christ story for millennia. And people are bored with seeing the same character type over and over beat the bad guys. And in a reality where we have 2 moves and 4 moves as regular gatekeeping tactics, who even are the bad guys? Those in power have been in denial of these facts, but the writing is on the wall. Jesus Christ is dead and has been revived so many times. Insert blaspheme here. So back to the plebes, or lower level talking heads, and some people with good intentions or culture mixed in, but from afar, you all look alike. If there's no merit in a popcorn shoot 'em up explosion film, like really nothing redeemable about the 355, Basic Instinct 2, Ghostbusters 4, or which I have to admit I haven't seen. And finally, the Marvels. Like, there's nothing redeemable about any of those female-led films. Like, you have to make them the worst films on the planet Earth. For what? Either way, I gathered a few of them together to listen to their gripes or requests of the upcoming Brave New World film. And this is what they came up with.
His superpowers is humanity. Well, at the end of that trailer, we saw the Red Hulk. So I don't know what the fuck his humanity is going to do with the Red Hulk.
You couldn't have used any other villain in any way, shape, or form instead of the leader. Why did we opt to make the leader the main threat in this film? Because when I see this film and I see the leader and I see Red Hulk, my question is, what is Bruce Banner up to?
I mean, a little bit interesting. We only learned that Giancarlo Esposito is in this movie, 6 weeks ago? We only learned he joined the MCU a few months ago? And like, he's all throughout this movie. So my impression is that he was added with the reshoots. Once again, like, how much was this movie reshaped?
I've seen Captain America 4. I've seen anything with Giancarlo Esposito, Serpent Society. I've seen not even Red Hulk. I feel like it just, well, that was a flash in the pan. And because Robert Downey Jr. and Dr. Doom took all the air out of the room. So maybe that was a mistake on their part. I don't know. Time will tell. You guys tell me what you guys think.
Answer the questions of those that were curious in the last section of the video, but I have to crack some heads real quick. Primarily some woke activists trying to make their identity the baseline for all films from Birth of a Nation to a possible Death of a Nation in 2025. I think I figured you guys out. You won't claim being alt-right. I guess you don't want to be lumped in and with skinheads or Nazis, legally speaking. You shy away from saying you're racist while constantly saying racist things at the end of the very same sentence.
Vitriol, prejudiced, hatred, and hateful language.
She sounds like a fucking 12-year-old.
You can see her looking to like, did I get all the check boxes? Yeah. Okay.
How is that conservative?
Bigoted and hyper conservative.
So my favorite part of this is actually in the beginning when she's like, I can't tell you how much I hate doing this. I hate just speaking off the top of my head and not reading my thoughts on a cue card. This looks like just another night in Baltimore. I don't know what's going on.
I see you now. You all just want to be ancients of chaos. I would say you lust for bloodshed more than the typical Roman Colosseum patron. You have to be Commodus or Gregory Anton, or even a fraudulent version of the Joker from The Dark Knight. I would like to address the creators that don't have questions, though, because they know all they need to know by the skin tone, BMI, or genitalia of the characters that they see on screen.
And then bringing in body positivity time cop girl boss from Loki to clean everything up was just cringe.
Now, if you don't see the grift, you are in your emotions. This guy and his merry band of thieves have been robbing Hood, men in tight jean shorts, or baseball caps, and wearing mullets without their consent. But on a serious note, addressing serious people, what I don't see in the world often enough is balance. Too much to the left can be bad, too much to the right can be bad. Being neutral on topics that affect thousands of people's lives could be seen by some as humane. I actually don't fully know where you are. You are a smart guy, like a 50 Cent of the nerd world. Oh wait, that might upset your sensibilities to be compared to a billionaire harboring a sex offender sympathizer. And here you are throwing out what is equivalent to a diss track against people you deem lesser than you, while co-opting a bunch of kids to do the same while you barely affect their metrics. But you rack up all the views and subscriptions and use that against your peers as leverage to dangle success in their faces. But I do commend you for being able to accomplish what you have, basically being a guy of simple taste, enjoying dynamite, gunpowder, and gasoline. And I know the thing that they have in common. They're all coming from a cheap, low-hanging fruit place of boredom. You seem to be doing all of this just for kicks, except for the fact that would be noble, like some kind of anti-humane Robin Hood, or steals from the rich and the poor, all in the name of skewing the term woke into a unifying weapon that affects major corporation bottom lines, but not out of some sense of altruism for saving humanity from the boogeyman or woman or child, because with the Marvels video you made, you got about 2.1 million views. With that pot, you made around maybe a little bit less than $50,000. It shouldn't be about money. It's about sending a message. I urge you guys to wean off your profit-filled hate campaign highs and embrace the diverse partners you already have. Stop making them into Oreos to escape the responsibility or consequences of your words. Or maybe I'm wrong, and you will go full
retarded.
Everybody knows you never go full retard.
And get pushed to the side of what society needs to exist. You are contributing to an afterlife for the zeitgeist and don't know how to land safely on either side. But this is my gift to you. Trust me, I get it. We want good products. But the truth of the matter is that majority products aren't great. And it's only these hate campaign canvassers that make it more obvious for things that are good or passing within pop culture. Perfect example is that there's a literal hate campaign for Barbie, but because it was above average, it overcame the hate and they shut you up, and you picked up your toys and moved on to the next thing to label woke, aka not white male centered.
Rogers passed the mantle along to Sam Wilson, his longtime friend and ally who helped Steve fight crime as the Falcon. Fun fact, this would be the first time that Steve Rogers actually chose a successor, because if you've been paying attention, the role was given to other people by the government or just straight up taken from him in either his absence or his death. Despite being a long-running and well-developed character, Sam Wilson was a controversial Captain America, mostly from people who don't actually read comic books. But this was also reflected in the comics themselves, as Sam was met with skepticism for being a black man, he was seen as a communist for setting up a hotline in an attempt to work more closely with the average American,
even though Steve Rogers also did that,
and because Wilson pulled away from S.H.I.E.L.D. after he publicly opposed putting a hacker whistleblower on trial. Sam was frequently met with "Not my Captain America" and the social media campaign of #GiveBackTheShield, with it only getting worse when Steve Rogers was restored back to normal by a sentient cosmic cube. Steve initially wanted Sam to keep the position of Captain America, but at Wilson's request, they decided to both be Captain America at the same time. However, after Sam's friend and fellow superhero Rage was unjustly incarcerated and nearly beaten to death in prison, Sam needed to put the costume aside and take a little bit of time in nature away from all the noise in order to think. When he came back to town though, Sam discovered that the United States had been taken over by Hydra with Steve Rogers as its supreme commander. Okay, so remember that sentient cosmic cube that restored Steve back to 100%? Yeah, well, she was manipulated by the Red Skull into rewriting all of reality so that Rogers was actually a Hydra sleeper agent this entire time, and amassed the power to take over the country. In this new world order, Sam worked as a smuggler, helping prosecuted folks escape from Hydra. But outside of this, he had no desire to join the Resistance, nor take up the Captain America identity once again. That is until he got a pep talk by this kid going by Patriot. Oh, and that is not the same Patriot that I mentioned earlier who was the grandson of Isaiah Bradley. This kid is someone completely different. Anyway, the real Steve still existed within the Cosmic Cube, who was horrified with all the chaos that resulted from her changing Steve into a Hydra agent. But thanks to a heroic speech from Rogers, the Cube brought the real Steve back, now physically existing as a separate entity from his Hydra counterpart, whose ass he thoroughly kicked. With the day saved, Sam decided to go back to his identity as the Falcon and cleared the way so that Steve Rogers could earn back the trust of the world as the one and only Captain America. And that is it. Every single Captain America ever. That is until Marvel decides to change things in like 2 days, which renders this entire video null and void.
Stable corruption that must be purged.
We'll agree to disagree on that. No idea how long we can keep this up, Tony. Don't worry, I got a fix. I always do.
You have failed. Now witness your end.
Ultron shorted out my system. Cover me while I reboot. Hello? Can you hear me?
Falcon, you know the systems better than anyone. What's our next move?
Shield me. I'm going to attempt to override Ultron's backdoor access. It's risky, but...
No, enough with the risks. There has to be a more viable way.
Timber.
Okay. Sorry, it was going too fast to stop. But hey, it worked, right?
On your left.
You just ran like 13 miles in 30 minutes.
On your left. Guess I got a late start.
Really? You should be ashamed of yourself.
What unit you with?
58th Pararescue. But now I'm working down at the VA. Sam Wilson.
Steve Rogers.
I kind of put that together.
It's good to meet you, Sam.
We all got the same problems. Guilt. Regret.
You lose someone?
My wingman. Sorry.
Everyone we know is trying to kill us.
Not everyone.
I thought you said you were a pilot.
I never said pilot. Consider all our options. The people that shoot at you usually wind up shooting at me. No, you're a lot heavier than you look.
I had a big breakfast.
117 countries want to sign this. 117, Sam, and you're just like, no, it's cool, we got
How
it.
long are you gonna play both sides?
I have an equation.
Oh, this will clear it up. We're on our own. Maybe not. Hey, Cap, we got a situation here. Sam! Sam, where you at?
Hey, Cap, you read me? Captain Sam, can you hear me? On your left.
How does it feel?
Like it's someone else's.
It isn't. You think things are different? You think times are different? You think I wouldn't be dead in a day if you brought me out? You want to believe jail was my fault?
That, and it wouldn't have had that much to say. Getting back into it a little bit, Sam's sister, played an important part in the show, adding to the complexity, I would say. He thought he could go in and just assert his will right on her, and then he got another thing coming, and she made him look in the mirror. And I just expand on what you were thinking with the sister subplot.
We were, again, mythically, she's really the final boss, right? That's the final thing he has to get past, because he's confronted Isaiah, and we were super mindful to make sure that Isaiah, who is the living embodiment of Sam's fears, is never wrong, right? And that makes his journey more difficult, because by the end of the story, he knows Isaiah is as right as anyone else, and that's what he's up against. And Sam's sister embodies sort of the personal doubt that he had, and whether or not him going off to be a hero was him being scared to take on, like, just so much stuff got removed because there just wasn't space. It would have been a 30-episode show. But we've done all this research on the Black fishermen in Louisiana and what the banks did to them. You know what I'm saying?
Cool.
And that fight at home, Sam always doubted himself. Did I run off and risk my life to avoid having to confront that? And you know, by making her super opinionated and making her have all that agency, she's a giant in his life, because she embodies all that history. And it's not until he has that moment with her that he can go then put on the costume and, you know, become Cap.
Sarah, I'm so happy to hear you say that. We have to preserve this. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that I can't win every fight. And that's cool, I'm okay with that. But this is our history. We can't lose this fight. All our struggles as a people, I think about it and I used to say, I'm gonna show them. I'm gonna go out and change the world. Yeah, silly, I know, but I would look in your eyes, I could tell you were always thinking that I was running away.
Sam, listen to me. No point in my life did I ever think you were running away from anything. Not even when I was lighting your ass up at the bank. Who knew you were so sensitive? God, I missed you so much. There's a fight out there, and then there's our fight here. And bro, you have taken them both on. So you really gonna let Isaiah Bradley get in your head? You gonna let him decide what you do next?
Isaiah's been to hell and back. If I was in his shoes, I'd probably feel the exact same way. But what would be the point of all the pain and sacrifice if I wasn't willing to stand up and keep fighting?
I'm saying, I'm a black man from the South, what don't I understand, right? Which is right there on the nose.
Right.
But that felt like what he would say too. You know what I'm saying? Like,
absolutely.
You can't shut your character up if they're gonna say certain things. And you try not to do the old school version of standing on a pulpit and getting it out there, because the truth is, Marvel, long before I came along, wanted these characters to embody these social conversations. And that's what their DNA is as characters. So if John Walker is using excessive force with a shield, I shouldn't have to say more. You know what I'm saying? I shouldn't have to say more. And I shouldn't have to have someone say, you know, I want to be mindful, you know, it's you really do try and balance it and make it feel as natural as possible. And you know what? And you try not to have no agenda. Like it just, we didn't have to reach. It just, like, the truth is the truth. And Marvel is aware that these conversations would have to happen if you hand a black man that shield. It's not like we should, if you tried not to do it, you would be lying.
Every time I pick this thing up, I know there are millions of people out there who are going to hate me for it. Even now, here, I feel it. The stares, the judgment. And there's nothing I can do to change it. Yet I'm still here. No super serum, no blonde hair or blue eyes. The only power I have is that I believe we can do better. We can't demand that people step up and we don't meet them halfway. You control the banks. Shit, you can move borders. You can knock down a forest with the email. You can feed 1 million people with the phone call. But the question is, who's in the room with you when you're making those decisions? Is it the people you're going to impact? Or is it just more people like you? I mean, this girl died trying to stop you. And no one has stopped for 1 second to ask why.
Question you mentioned handing off that shield was, is Bucky going to get it or is Sam going to get it?
Right.
How much discussion was there amongst you all in terms of who is going to get that shield? And ultimately is Sam.
There was a lot because again, it fueled by the books. There is two versions of who gets the shield, Sam or Bucky. And we talked about it, but it became pretty clear to us early on. Cap and Sam just share a character connection. They're both sort of like they're very dedicated.
Not that Cap
soldiers.
and Bucky don't, but yeah.
Right. Well, I think the real attraction between Cap and Bucky is more their relationship started more as opposites. You know what I mean? That's how they complemented one another. Whereas I feel like Sam and Cap are more of kindred spirits. And also, I think, which is important, Bucky has a damaged mind. I don't know if you want to give another weapon to that guy. Could end up being used.
At this point, Bucky's entire arc is about establishing his own identity. Putting the shield on him would have been a disservice to his arc. It makes complete sense for him and Steve to both choose Sam to be the successor, as he has been there by Steve's side for years as an Avenger and a public figure doing good. Sam is committed to this mission and can bring something new to the mantle. Bucky is not someone in the right mental state to become Captain America, and we've seen how bad that can go before. I don't care if Bucky became Captain America in the comics after Steve. This is a completely different universe. Sam personifies everything that Steve stood for and then some, and will forever be the perfect choice to be the MCU's Cap. Some people look down on Sam for retiring the shield, and they're cowards for doing so. It adds a lot of depth to not just his character, but those surrounding him. As a black man, carrying the stars and stripes is a risk every time he goes outside. I'm sure you've seen the online reaction Marvel has gotten for making Sam Captain America, just proving the show right. Regardless of Sam's intentions, he's gonna get dirty looks from the worst people you know just because of how he looks. It's why he gave up the shield in the first place, because he didn't think he can handle that amount of pressure and responsibility. Is it the right thing to do? No, but that's what makes Sam so interesting. Perfect characters are boring. Flawed characters are where it's at. Even Steve was flawed. It's what grounds these larger-than-life heroes in reality. But throughout the series, we see Sam listen to both sides of the argument. Whether it's from Isaiah Bradley as he learns what happened to the last Black Captain America, or Bucky urging him on, he's put himself into a tough situation. It isn't until he sees his nephews playing with the shield that he's able to decide on what to do. Seeing that young generation take pride in their uncle being a superhero is a huge deal. They can see someone who looks like them being the face of America. That's a huge deal.
On a personal note, I can relate to the technical side of Sam Wilson. So in a way, I can see myself as Sam Wilson, having a background in electronics, repair, dealing with like helicopters. And as you'll see, Sam has many talents, tools, weapons, and has been preparing for leadership under both Iron Man and Captain America. And in recent years received technology from Wakanda. He also repairs his equipment, Red Wing, and is not quite on the same level technologically as Tony Stark, but may do with only government funding and training, not a billionaire's deep pockets. So, a bit more admirable.
Wilson. Thanks for coming in. Well, thank you for the invite, sir. I have to admit, I'm still getting used to the new look. They said lose the mustache or lose the election. You and I haven't always agreed in the past, but I want to make another run at making Captain America an official military position.
And if we disagree on how to manage a situation, then what happens?
Work with me, Sam. We'll show the world a better way forward. Your inner circle has been compromised. Either you can't see that, or you don't want to. What if it's a trap? Global power is shifting. You're just a pawn. You may be Captain America, but you're not Steve Rogers. You're right. I'm not.
For my own purposes, I created a location-based stringer of the trailer and leaked footage from D23 and found some things. And what I learned is that this film is a dream come true for me. I say that because it gives a foundation for the conversation of who is pulling the strings in society, even with perceived power. Who's actually controlling the people that we believe are in power. And not like some corporate oligarchy kind of way, but idealist, like Thanos, but more humane and more hidden. And because of that, I'll only cover one main location and a few scenes from that singular location. Even though the meat and potatoes are in I think it was about 5 or 6 locations that I had. One of them was called Unknown One. Unknown One had a lot of meat and potatoes for the plot, as far as Sam Wilson being not in his uniform. He's actually in civilian clothing. You'll see it in the trailers, but that's probably where most of the story kind of unveils itself or reveals itself, and actually in one way, but also allows more questions to be gathered. Because some mysteries are presented in those moments in relation to the existing story. I'm not even sure where that is in the movie. I'm hoping it's in the latter part, because the end of the movie being against Ross, I don't see how that works, because you just beat a Hulk. Yeah, he's like stronger than a normal Hulk and can explode on command, or whatever the case may be. But no, that's not the win or the loss that Sam Wilson needs. But focusing on Washington, D.C., pre and post assassination attempts, because there's actually 2 attempts. There's roughly about 5 sections to focus on, because there are at least 2 in the trailer. There was a synopsis released after the footage was shown during Comic-Con, and the description of the synopsis says, CinemaCon was able to see the very first footage from Captain America Brave New World. The clip that was shown follows Sam Wilson meeting Thunderbolt Ross, who is now the president at the White House. Ross is asking to meet with Wilson so he can reunite the Avengers with a new Captain America at the forefront. He's looking to unite forces, but he might have some ulterior motives unknown to everyone else. During a meeting where Ross is presenting this plan to a crowd with Sam in attendance, a mysterious villain takes over the speakers and controls the minds of Secret Service agents. Full chaos ensues, which leads us to a montage of the different action set pieces of the film. We see Sam getting attacked at the White House, using his shield to block himself from multiple Secret Service agents trying to tase him. We see shots of Sam Wilson and Joaquin Torres in action together. Everything builds up to a tense confrontation between Sam and Thunderbolt Ross inside the Oval Office, wherein Ross tells him, "You're not Steve Rogers," after a long pause. Also, Sam says, "You're right, I'm not." Finally, we see Sam suit up in the new Captain America suit, which is more silver and blue than blue and white. All right. All that said, if 50% of that description is accurate, then either the leader is not working with President Ross and sees him as a threat, or a domino, or he is working with him and he knows that, he can't hurt President Ross, but he's also setting a plan in motion or knocking down a domino. Maybe even a combination of the two options. But let's quickly take a look at a few of the questions I shared earlier, and I will finish with the possible additions to the Avengers team.
Superpowers is humanity. Well, at the end of that trailer, we saw the Red Hulk, so I don't know what the fuck his humanity is going to do with the Red Hulk.
Yes. But I got a question. That Red Hulk looked fire. How the hell are you going to beat him? How are you going to beat Red Hulk and make it make sense? How does this motherfrigger beat Red Hulk?
With the question about how Sam would take on Red Hulk, there are a few options here. In the first case, we could expand Sam's abilities by tapping in on Black Panther technology. But simply put, there are a few Hulk types already in the MCU. Hulk Prime, She-Hulk, Abomination, Scar. We could finally get some character building for that character. Alternatively, Carol is just as powerful as the Hulk, if not more. Finally, there is a such thing as a Hulk Buster armor, and Rhodey can bring that to the fight as War Machine. And at this point, I have not seen the film. It's months away, like I said, so he might even be in the picture. Like, from the comics, Rhodey is actually the vice president at one point, so that might be his role here. It's just they're keeping him out of the trailers. But Red Hulk has atomic powers and can explode on command, hence the explosion of the White House here. So maybe this won't work, trying to fit the Hulk Buster around an atomic bomb. Well, not quite an atomic bomb, but like a smaller nuclear yield bomb. With all of these options on the table, my bet is on at least Carol will show, since they're both based out of Louisiana.
Use any other villain in any way, shape, or form instead of the leader? Why did we opt to make the leader the main threat in this film? Because when I see this film and I see the leader and I see Red Hulk, my question is, what is Bruce Banner up to?
Will do come back in ways that are surprising and unexpected, and Tim Blake Nelson coming back as a leader is such an exciting thing to explore, because his story now is going to challenge Sam Wilson, our new Captain America, in a way that he never expected. So it's really, really thrilling, and I think a lot of things that got set up and established years ago will allow the MCU to actually go in new directions that audiences are going to really, really be excited about.
Ona also revealed that the crisis will be the first major test of Sam's leadership abilities. He'll have to rally the Avengers, or whatever passes for the Avengers these days, against a very different sort of threat.
We saw what it means for somebody like him to take the shield, but it is also a very different MCU. It's a post-blip MCU. It's a post-Thanos MCU. So the world has changed a lot too, and the role of a hero has changed. What does that mean? The decisions he's going to have to make And the situations he's going to be confronted with are radically different from what Steve Rogers had to deal with. And as a result of that, because he's a leader now of this team, he's got to make decisions that are going to have massive implications.
Well, but that's not happening. So we'll do it over 4 movies. How's that sound?
Is that still true?
As far as I know.
There
I
seems
mean,
to
I could
have
talk
been-
more about it, but I've been told not to.
But you have Captain America, Brave New World. That's next, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
in 2025. And are you allowed to talk about that?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's going to be great.
Sam is militant and can fight and fly his way out of pretty much any situation, which we might witness in the opening of the film and definitely witnessed in the opening of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But to be outmaneuvered by the leader and moved around like a chess piece is somewhat of a new take on Captain American villains and Marvel villains altogether. Technically, Hydra ran S.H.I.E.L.D., so there was a hint of that in the MCU, but I don't think that counts since it was an organization, not a single person. Technically, Zola, the AI, was behind it, but I don't know. I don't know if we can consider Zola a person. In these times, maybe Zola would be considered AGI. I'll put that on the screen. I think that the overlap of using Bruce Banner is a bit much. If he was in the film more than one scene, probably fighting Red Hulk, it could take away from the main plot and enemies. Alternatively, his story could be a subplot similar to Ragnarok, Endgame. I'm guessing he goes full Rage Hulk as a split from the Hulk and Banner, where the Rage Hulk is independent of Banner. Banner is independent of the Hulk altogether, where he can't Hulk out anymore. Similar to what happened in the comics. Either way could work because it expands the Hulk's lore in the MCU, but the latter helps with furthering Bruce's story and why Liv Tyler would be in the movie. Ross showed in X-Men 97, and no one asked for Hulk then, but with Betty Ross included, it is almost guaranteed Bruce will be in an edit/version of the film. Now that those are out of the way, I want to cover the communications device used in Endgame and at the end of Shang-Chi. This, to me, establishes the universal wide communication that happens between the Avengers. That said, Rhodey, Carol, Rocket, Okoye, Wong, Hulk, Shang-Chi are officially Avengers. But let's look at this map of the country where other powered people that fought in Endgame or showed up after could grace Washington, D.C. with their presence. I don't want to bring in Avengers or pre-Avengers that are more than 1,200 miles away. And if they are, then they have to fly faster than, 100 miles, 200 miles a minute. That sounds like crazy, but I'll see if I can find the metric as to how fast Carol Danvers is, because she's actually out in Baton Rouge, and it might take about 5 minutes for her to get from there to Washington, D.C. As fast as she can fly through space, she can fly just as fast on Earth with a little bit of air resistance. But anyway, Bruce, who's typically in like Central America, can also get there within maybe 5 to 7 minutes. Based on the comics and some of the stuff that we've seen, maybe some of the deleted scenes from what was that? Civil War? No, not Civil War. The one before Civil War, Age of Ultron, where he basically like jumped from a crashed plane into outer space or something. I don't know. I don't know what he did, but there's a deleted scene. Maybe I'll add it here. Now, a caveat that I would like to add is that Wong is grouping team members based on his appearances in other films that we've seen recently, and is taking part with the communications at the end of the film Shang-Chi. That said, outliers like Star-Lord can be brought in by Wong. Yeah, because he doesn't. I don't think he has like a ship on his own to fly from Missouri to Washington D.C. But maybe he was introduced to Wong by Rocket or after Endgame and at the funeral, Tony Stark's funeral. Like everybody was pretty much there. As a matter of fact, that's actually another good reference point for the new Avengers because there's a lot of people that would have, had conversations around the time of the funeral. On the premise that Northeast American hero/powered visitors and residents could be considered new Avengers, with those rules in place, we could have the following team. Captain America, currently in Washington, D.C., but based out of Louisiana, has now accepted the mantle of Captain America and has to prove his leadership skills, will organize the team to be unmatched and console the team after any losses during the film. War Machine, based out of Washington, D.C., has been an Air Force pilot and major and flown with his best friend Tony in the War Machine armor. Was recently released from captivity and plans to protect society from similar threats. Falcon, based out of Washington, D.C., because that's where a fair share of the film takes place. Was formerly an Army forward scout and man in the chair, essentially, throughout the show Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Now has accepted and rebuilt the OG Falcon wings to be used personally. Wong, he can pretty much show up anywhere he wants, but the three main locations of entry outside of Kamartaj were London, Hong Kong, and New York. So he's technically based out of the New York area. He was the Kamartaj librarian that embraced Stephen Strange and worked alongside him to defeat Dormammu. Has been recruiting and cage fighting some of the recruits and may be the key to bringing the Avengers together. Hulk, based out of Mexico, a raging monster turned lab coat scientist / non-monster, and is a new father. Has a grudge against Thaddeus Ross, or vice versa, Thaddeus Ross has a grudge against him, but he loves Betty Ross, the daughter of Thaddeus Ross, and may face off with Ross in this film, depending upon how much screen time Hulk gets. Star-Lord, born in Missouri, abducted by aliens, was a space pirate, newly home from being abducted, roughly about 30 some years ago. He has a legendary title to live up to, and also to show his new team members on Earth, on C-53, on Terra. Scarlet Witch, now based out of Westview. She still has property there legally. Was a villain initially, then an ally, then a villain again, and is now a full-blown witch. Currently reported as dead, but there are machinations around her and a coven of 5 witches on the Witches Road. and there are rumors of a Scarlet Witch film, so she might be back by the time Brave New World is in theaters. Black Panther is in Haiti, formerly scoffed at tradition and was the technical support for the previous Black Panther, T'Challa, her brother. But repeated losses removed that innocence, like these people. Currently in Haiti, helping to raise her nephew to be a prince, and also bond and take a break from Regency as well, stepping away from the crown. Captain Marvel, based out of Louisiana, Baton Rouge, because that's where the Rambos live, not too far from Baton Rouge. Formerly abducted by the Kree and gaslit into believing she was Kree herself and weaker than she actually was. But she fought back and regained her agency after making some mistakes and getting her revenge. One of the mistakes she made was abandoning her family, and she's now searching for her niece, not by blood, but, chosen family, that she lost so much time with, and is the strongest Avenger currently on Earth. Honorable mentions go to Calverine. He's quite possibly the 616 Wolverine, Henry Cavill. Hawkeye. I don't see Hawkeye coming into this film. And also, he's living in Iowa, so, unless he has access to a Quinjet, I don't think he can make it out within 5 minutes to help fight Thaddeus Ross, aka Red Hulk. And then lastly, Spider-Man, as an honorable mention, because he's in New York, and that's not too far from Maryland or Washington, D.C. I believe it's likely that they won't be in this film, but at the very most, a post-credit could have Calverine getting adamantium bone injections, since adamantium is a major plot point of the film, based on rumors and I believe some D23 footage. So, I do want to make a point to kind of align some team members, kind of like an odd couple type of pairing between different characters, like kind of like Gamora and Nebula, even though neither one of them was like the comedian, but Nebula was like more war torn and damaged, I guess. So that was the contrast between her and Gamora. So like some of the pairings that I have are Captain America and War Machine. They're both essentially passed the baton of Captain America's shield and the title. And War Machine has been around since Iron Man 1. And essentially, in Tony's absence, he would always be like the next Iron Man. Even though we have Riri Williams coming, but she's on the younger side, so we probably won't count her as an Avenger quite yet. Another pairing would be Hulk and Black Panther. They both had something to do with, repairing Vision's body. So they both have some knowledge of how Vision's anatomy works and tracking the adamantium. Tracking the vibranium. So that's another plot point that I want to bring up from the film in regards to Samuel Stearns, or the leader. He might be too smart. He might be so smart that none of the Avengers, none of these Avengers that we're listing off here, even Hulk and Black Panther, can outsmart him, because he's literally got like a mutated brain that is like AI essentially, which comes back to Hulk and Black Panther working together. They could possibly look for Vision, and I just kind of randomly put him, Vision, between the two of them. Maybe Vision had some kind of inclination that Hulk was in Mexico and the Black Panther was in Haiti, so he just went to Cuba, just to kind of emit some vibranium signature close to where they were. I don't know. But basically, that is probably not a plot point of the film, but that could bring both of those two characters together as kind of like a, odd couple relationship, where Shuri is not necessarily as jokey as she used to be. She might have gained some of her joy back since, she's kind of, I don't know, imprinting the personality of her brother onto her nephew, telling him stories about his father and all of these things. So maybe she got some of her joy back, and she'll have uh, pushed down some of that anguish, some of that misery and trauma. Moving on, Scarlet Witch and Wong. Save the best for last, because Scarlet Witch, based on kind of like the verbal relationship between Wong and this character here, which I think I'm gonna make up a name right now and say Sarah, but I'll figure out the right name and maybe put it on screen. But essentially, Wanda killed this woman. And not necessarily directly. It was kind of like a passive thing. Oh, you know what? I think something happened where she self-immolated to destroy the to destroy the Darkhold. I'll have to pull up the scene and rewatch it and add an addendum to this statement. But basically, there's history between Wong and the Scarlet Witch, and that could be quite tenuous. That could actually be one of those Star-Lord moments where Wong might see an opportunity to create a sling ring portal and close it on her leg or close it on her arm or something like that, but not necessarily try to like kill her, but just maybe maim her, because she can be physically harmed. But she has the ability to kind of rewrite reality and, protect herself with like forces of the chaos magic and all of these things. But she's still fallible. She's still human if you can get through some of those defenses and offensive mechanisms. So yeah, that would be quite interesting if the Scarlet Witch and Wong had some interactions. Yeah, there would be remorse, I would hope. I don't know how Agatha All Along is going to end, where they possibly bring Wanda back, and maybe she comes back worse, like possessed or something like that. But yeah, it would be interesting. First, I get to see myself on screen. And I don't mean in some black representation way. I mean, I have a technical background, and it was not lauded in front of me most of my childhood. I mistakenly fell into technology with the knack for math and a pretty good ASVAB score. And because there were no guardrails in place during the time of my late teens and early 20s, it wasn't until I was on the job that I started to see the world as it was. I want to give the gift of possibilities to younger children to see themselves in a black representation kind of way, because the guardrails have been put up again, or their defenses are up and they see threats everywhere. Secondly, scene and character-wise, I want to see how Sam handles the threats he faces, and how he would handle those threats. Is it possible that humanity is his greatest weapon, and addressing wounds that would be a path to de-escalation, or is it too late to turn back for Isaiah, the leader, Red Hulk, Sidewinder? Could there be some common ground found? Or
I don't think he's the kind you save. He's the kind you stop.
I guess we'll see whose societal damage is the greatest and are too far gone to be saved. Finally, with Phase 4 being the Multiverse Sagas, Phase 1, I'm so excited to see the Phase 3, aka Phase 5 team-ups coming. The New Avengers will be formed. I probably shouldn't use that name, New Avengers, because I believe the Thunderbolts are going to be like labeled the New Avengers, but the latest Avengers will be formed. Then the Thunderbolts, and more teams after that, possibly the West Coast Avengers on the small screen, through shows like Wonder Man, and Vision Quest, I think it's called. And quite possibly the Agatha All Along show, because Wanda might be brought back into the MCU at the end of the show, or maybe midway through or something like that. But this is an exciting time, and don't forget, it's all imaginary, but can be revolutionary if we let it be. See you in the theaters, I hope.